The founder relationship is one that's very important.
If I'm going to continue to be disrupted, I have to go learn from the disruptor, like how they're doing it.
There's a lot of designers on the very creative side are worried about AI. It's not replacing anybody. It simply replaces their bike with a car. So it allows you to get there faster. That's all.
Hi, I'm Jim Fielding. Welcome to Ask for an Answer. Okay. Hello, kind and curious and talented human beings. It is time for another episode of Ask for an Answer. And I am thrilled that we have Ken Pilot here today. And I am going to tell the story, which I had to look up some dates, Ken, but
you're going to do that to me?
I know.
Are you going to do that?
I'm going to age. I'm going to age both of us. I'm going to age both of us. And by the way we're dressed, you can tell we both worked in the denim industry at one time. But I met you, Mr. Pilot, in 1992 officially. I think I had met you before that. But when I moved to San Francisco, and I think in 92, you did not have, I don't think you had all your children, but I think you were the DMM of women's denim in that, right?
Sounds about right.
And it was John Sable who brought me in. And I'm just dropping tons of names at the beginning.
You keep going. You're doing well.
Because in our office, I came to work for Tom Kennedy as a trainee from the field. I had been a district manager. And in that office complex was you, Maureen Shakay, Tina Canales, miss her so much, may she rest in peace, Cheryl Clark, John Sable. Like, it's crazy to me that was the atmosphere I was dropped into, like out of the field. And you guys were basically, again, I'm dating myself for all our listeners and watchers. Like, we still were carrying Levi's at that time. We were converting to being a private label denim house, but we still had Levi's on the floor. And it was baptism by fire, and I loved every minute of it. But I did not know anything, Ken. I didn't know what an open to buy was. I didn't know how to make denim. I didn't know any of that. But that's when we met.
Well, now you don't even need to know any of it because AI will do it for you.
I know. It's so true.
I mean, would our jobs have been at risk? Was that 30 years ago? Is that 30 years ago?
Yeah, what? Yeah, 92. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's crazy. And I was a field guy. Like, I give Gap credit. It was at the Gap, by the way. I think I forgot to tell everybody that. But I give Gap credit for, they had this program where they were bringing in people from the field to be merchants because Gap was growing and they needed more merchants. And I kind of raised my hand and basically became a trainee. And it was the days when we were still making denim domestically. I mean, the denim was made
Kentucky.
It was cut and sewn in Kentucky. And then we were taking it to El Paso to wash it.
That's right.
And after like 2 weeks in the office, Tom basically sent me on the road, and I went and saw denim being made and then cut and sewn and then washed. And that was training. I mean, that was how you were trained in those days. So anyway.
It was hands-on.
I worry about that. We'll talk about that in our industry. I worry in our industry because I don't think training happens like that anymore. And we were really taught to respect the product.
I think what you bring up also is such an important part, at least it was an important part for me, but it's understanding the different facets of the business that we're in. So you were in store line, then you came into buying line. When I started my career at Macy's, and you went from store line to buying line, back to store line, and then to buying line. But understanding what happens in stores gives you an appreciation for what you need to do when you're buying, and the buyers have an appreciation for how hard it is to be in the stores. So it really it creates a much more well-rounded retail executive than just coming in and being in planning only, in buying only, in production only, because you just get siloed and you don't understand how all the parts work together or the importance of how you share information with other areas of the company that can help you be
Completely.
successful.
Completely. No, and I think my background as I moved up in the industry, my background helped me because to your point, I had run stores, like I was a district manager. And so I really understood field operations. And then I was taught product development, merchandising, assortment planning, all of that stuff that we were experts at Gap. But I literally, it was on the job training. It was baptism by fire and um, a lot of rough meetings, but meetings that I always learned in, right? And like meetings we know. I mean, you and I talked about this when we saw each other recently. We talked about like the crying in the bathroom, right? I mean, there was
Wait,
issue.
hold on. I want to be clear. I was not
You were
crying
not
in the
crying.
bathroom.
I'm saying some
I
of
was
us.
probably making people
No,
cry in the
I was
bed.
going to
No,
say you were
no.
in shit. No, you were. No, you
I
were
was the
not.
guy running around with a tissue box helping
Totally.
those who
That's what I
were
say.
crying.
You were the soother. You were the soother. But I'm so grateful for that time. And it was funny when I became a CEO, people said to me, "Well, you're a CEO, but you don't have a master's degree." And I'm like, I was almost 10 years at the Gap. That was like getting an MBA in retail. Like I have all the training and all the experience I could ever have. All right, so back up. We talked about Macy's. Tell our audience your background because it's fascinating, but then also what you're working on now, because that'll make more sense when I ask you the questions I ask.
So I think I always grew up as somewhat of an entrepreneur, and maybe that's because I was an only child. So
Mm.
when you're alone, you kind of figure out how to get stuff done,
Hmm.
or no one's doing it for you,
Hmm.
parents included. So yeah, I always took on odd jobs growing up. I was doing everything from shoveling driveways to stringing tennis rackets to actually developing black and white film at the local photography store because it was all done by hand at the time. And I go in
Unbelievable.
there for a couple hours, taking some fumes, and I was flying high by the end of the day. Which led to what I got into tennis in college. I was always playing tennis, but I played tennis a lot in college. And when I graduated, I was running a tennis camp in the Hamptons. That was probably
Mm.
so I was 21 years old, 22 years old, running a tennis camp and enjoying life a lot. The tennis camp was in the Hamptons, which was a great place too. Great place
Yeah.
to be in the summers. I still love
Yeah.
going there, but I realized I had to get like an adult job. So I entered the Macy's training program. I spent 5 years at Macy's working with some people that we know, including Mike Tucci and Jeff Feifel. We were actually all buyers together, all in like one area. So it was a great training ground. And again, I went from buying line to store line to buying line to store line. But everything when I
Yeah.
was there was about product development. And that's one thing we didn't really do at Macy's, except for
Right.
the private label group. They were traveling and I wanted to travel to China. I wanted to go to factories and that wasn't in my area. And then
Yeah.
I got a call from, I think it was from Susan Cooper.
Mhm.
And she told me she had an opportunity to work with a startup at the Gap. And now I'm drawing a blank on the startup's name. It was the Henry Cottons. It was the knockoff of Henry Cottons.
Oh,
What
yeah.
what was the name of that? Help me out here,
My
Jim. Come
god, I
on.
know, I know. What was that?
We'll think
Oh,
about it. But
well,
anyway,
it'll
I
come to us, it'll come
so
to us.
I met with Simon Gray, who was running it at the time, and Mary Lasky, who was the head buyer. And I chatted with them and I started to get excited, but I realized this was the stepchild. And if I was going to make this move to San
Mhm,
Francisco, it had to be with the Gap. So I went back
mhm.
to Susan and I said, Susan, I don't think the opportunity is right. I really want to be with the Gap. She said, no problem. And the next thing I knew, I was meeting with Mickey, chatting with him, and I began my career at the Gap. I started in as an associate buyer of men's shorts and outerwear so they could keep you busy all year
Mm,
round.
right, because
Um,
of seasonality. Yeah, got
that's
it.
right. Then I moved into buyer
Wow.
for men's sweaters, and then I became the DMM in men's in denim, working with John Sable, as you talked about
That's what I
earlier.
remember. That's when I came into the picture, yeah.
And then from there, other jobs at Gap, DMM at Banana Republic for men's
Public, yeah.
knits. And then I got thrown into what I thought was the worst job ever, which was to start the outlet business because we didn't have one. And they
Right.
made me do it. And I was like, what? What did I do wrong? I was not happy, Jim. This was not, I didn't want to be
This is not your
the
peak.
outlet guy in the fashion business. But anyway, they said, well, you're doing it. So I did it and started with, first employee, no stores. And 36 months later, we had 100 stores and close to, gosh, we were doing 500 million in business. So
Amazing.
it was out of the bag, so to speak. Then
Mm.
I went on to run international, partnered there with Marka Hansen, and then
Mhm.
ultimately was given responsibility for Gap Global, where I took on the responsibility for Gap brand in all countries. I did that until about 2001 when I left the Gap to join J. Crew. So at
Yes.
that point, I had left the Gap. I'd left Mickey Drexler in the rearview mirror. See you later. I'm moving back to New York, only to
Learned
find
everything you
out,
could learn, learned everything
oh,
you could learn. Yeah.
4 months later, Mickey Drexler comes in to J.
Hot
Crew to be
stuff.
chairman of the board. And I'm like, hey, guys, I got to move on. Let Mickey do it. Not big enough for both of us.
Right.
And from there, I went on to Ralph Lauren. And, it was interesting. I had a little bit of time off and I thought about where would I want to work if I could pick a company versus having a
Mhm.
company pick me. And
Mhm.
I often discuss this with people who are looking for jobs. Make a
Yeah,
list of the
great.
companies you want to work with and then go get it. So
100%.
I said, well, what better brand could there be than Ralph Lauren? So I did a little research, said, okay, I got to talk to Roger Farah. I got to Roger Farah and he said, well, let's have lunch together. And one thing led to another. And
Mm.
I landed a job at Ralph Lauren and I was responsible for their factory store business, which was then their biggest moneymaker and still is.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
also new business development where we launched rugby. I spent a couple of years at Ralph and then Roger Markfield, who I had worked for at Macy's, reached out to me to come over to American Eagle and join the team there. And
Mm.
together we launched a new brand called Martin and Osa. I was there for a couple of years.
That's it, brand.
It was a fun concept, but unrealistically executed, which was definitely part of my responsibility was to execute it responsibly. But I didn't see eye to eye with the heads of design at the time, whose names I will not mention on this
I know.
podcast.
I
It
know
was
them,
a
but I'm keeping him in my head.
husband and wife team that are no longer married. Shocker. And I recall talking to Jim O'Donnell, who was the CEO, about,
Mm.
hey, this isn't working, and I don't think we're working well as a team. And I think Jim made a decision. He had brought them on first. They
Mhm.
were going to see this thing through, and I was
Mhm.
out. So
Mhm.
with that, I decided, all right, maybe I need a reprieve from the apparel space. And a friend of mine, Oliver Mitchell, who I'd known for a long time, very good friends with his brother. Oliver came to me with a concept called the Robot Galaxy.
Mhm.
And this is where Jim and I reconnect in our lives. So,
Mhm.
Robot Galaxy was basically Build a Bear for boys. And I thought it was a really cool
Really
concept.
cool concept.
Loved the idea. And Oliver and I quickly raised about $7 million. We opened up 2 stores within a
Mhm.
month of each other, one in Freehold, New Jersey, the other one in Paramus. I'm sorry, in Palisades, New York Mall, which I don't even think it's a
Mm.
mall anymore.
Yeah, I
And
don't
we were off and running. But this was about 2007, just to put a timestamp on this,
yeah.
which, as you may recall, was the beginning of a very challenging financial period. We had interest in from a number of of venture capital companies,
Mhm.
and then we even reached out to Disney,
Mhm.
which is where our paths
Crossed
reconnected.
again, yeah.
And Jim and I were in conversations, and I thought Disney would be a great partner
Mhm.
to have. Disney had already been involved with a company which was Build Your Own Car. What was the name of that? Do you remember that?
Ride
Ride
maker.
Makers. Ride Makers. They had acquired Ride Makers,
Mhm.
and we were learning about the boys' business. Anyway, the conversations went back and forth. The short of
Yeah.
the long is a deal was not done there.
Mhm.
But that being said, Jim did take care of me and my family on one of our best family vacations to Disneyland, which I love. The kids still remember that, and I do too.
Oh
Jim,
my god.
you were like the mensch of mensches setting me up. I had all the speed passes you could want. I couldn't wait to get the hell
Mhm.
out of there, but we did everything in a day. So that
Oh
was the
my
best part
god.
of Robot Galaxy was my trip to
Yeah.
Disneyland.
I'm glad
From
something good came out of
that
that.
was
That's
good.
good. Yeah.
So after that, I spent 5 years at ABC Carpet and Home, where I was president there, working alongside of my cousin.
Yep.
Um, that was very interesting. I loved the business, but my cousin and I had a very different point of view on many things. Or as my uncle once told me, there's no greater oxymoron than a good family business.
Yeah.
And I'll leave that at that.
Yeah.
So after 5 years at ABC,
It's crazy.
I got into a space that I am still in now,
Mhm.
which is technology. And I
Mhm.
never liked technology. In fact,
Mhm.
I never wanted to be in a tech meeting. If I was in a tech meeting, you better tell me that the cash registers weren't working and
Yes.
we couldn't collect cash or
Yes.
credit cards at that time. Of course, those were still
Yeah.
important even back then. But I didn't want to be it. Technology was a necessary evil. So a friend of mine, Ken Seif, asked me if I wanted to invest some money in a tech fund that he had put together, Beanstalk
Mm.
Ventures. I said, Ken, I don't like technology. He goes, just do it. It's all retail tech. You'll love it. Put
Mm.
some money in. I met with some of the platforms that were within the fund, and I said, God, if I had used some of these platforms
Yeah.
while I was running one of these companies in the past, I could have been dangerous.
Mhm.
And over the past really 11 years, I've been investing in and advising tech platforms that support retailers and help retailers and brands scale.
Yeah.
And it's been a great ride. And it's what's most exciting about it is you're constantly learning.
Yeah.
There's
I
there's
love that.
always something new, and it's just so weird how it's something that I like so much that I hated so much. So that transition of technology, that's for the CTO, that's the tech team. You know what that
Mhm.
you like to be called into a tech meeting at Gap? Like what
Mm.
nerd is walking into
I
that
know.
meeting?
You
Not
were
me.
you
I'm a
literally tried any
I'm
way
a
to get out of it.
merchant. I'm
Yeah.
in merchandising.
Totally.
And
Totally.
now
I've got an airport to get to. I'm very important. I'm
that's
going
right.
somewhere.
So
No,
now
I
it's
totally agree.
Yeah, so I've been knee deep in that space. I also continue to work with retail brands, and now actually working with and supporting a company that you're on the board of, which is A-Frame. We
Yes.
both work for Ari Bloom,
Boom.
which has
From
been
Gap days. I
exciting.
mean, yeah, we connected with him at Gap too. I mean,
That's right. Ari was my trainee at Gap, so he tells me. But he loves to bring up on our calls. Oh, and I worked for Ken 42 years ago at Gap. I'm like, oh,
totally.
thanks, Ari. It wasn't
Totally.
wasn't 42. I'm just throwing out a
But I think
fictitious number.
it's so funny you say that, Ken, because as you were telling those stories, and I've told so many people this who aren't in retail, retail is a big industry, but it's a small industry too. Like it's crazy. Because when you brought up Jim O'Donnell's the person that hired me at Gap because
Do you still do you
he was
still
the
have a
head of
hole in your
stores.
chest?
Yes, yes. He was the head of stores. Like when because I got hired as a district manager in training in Detroit, Michigan. I interviewed with him in Birmingham, Michigan. I just so vividly remember meeting him. He was such an imposing figure. And yeah. And then I mean, you brought him up, the whole American Eagle thing. And I mean, my God, the name's Mary Lasky, all those things that you just remember. And you didn't bring up Mindy, but we crossed Mindy Grossman. We crossed the Mindy Grossman path as well. And I mean, she's been a guest on this before, and I mean, I'm so grateful for that. Like, I really am. I don't. In the time, we were working so hard in those gap years, and people don't realize what it was. It was fun, but I mean, it was booming, and we were basically running as fast as we could to keep up. And that's why we were traveling so much because,
Well, think about it, Jim.
we were
We
just
were
growing.
not only were you buying,
Yeah.
but you were very much partnering and or assisting with the buy as a
Yeah.
merchant. You were doing planning it wasn't a church and as church and state as
Totally.
it is today.
Your designer was
Then
in New York.
you were traveling there. You were going to place the goods in Hong Kong or whatever country that you needed to
Mhm.
place the goods in. And today that's probably done by the production team.
Yeah.
So you were crossing over all of these different silos to make it happen. So
Yeah.
you became a well-rounded merchant, and obviously you took that on to Disney,
Yeah.
and to have an appreciation for how stores work, how sourcing works, how
Mhm.
merchandising and planning.
Mhm.
It's something that was we were very lucky to get that education because I don't know how available it is today.
I don't know. And it's funny, even the things, in college, like I never saw retail as my career. And, I was like a political science major with the intent of going to law school. But you and I were also merchants in the days where we were managing quota and
Oh,
do like, I mean, like literally tracking quota categories and if we could ship out in time before the quota category changed. And I mean, there was so much geopolitical, socioeconomic, like we really did a lot. And like you, people can't believe the places that Gap sent me. Like I went to Madagascar, I went to Mauritius, and
oh,
people
that
are like,
wasn't
it's
so
so,
bad.
yeah, no, but
Mauritius is
they're
a
like,
good
oh, it's
place.
so
That was
glamorous.
good.
I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not like we were at the five-star resort, in Mauritius, but I and then to your point, we were in Hong Kong 4 or 5 times a year, and Singapore. If you were in the knits business, you were in Singapore a lot, and um, but it was all like you were learning as you went, and you were watching other people because there was a lot of bright and talented people around you that you could say, okay, wait a minute, I don't know what we're doing here, but we would figure it out. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that time. But when it was time for me to go, it was also time to go. Like I knew that I had run my course there and I was kind of forever branded as a Gap men's merchant. And I didn't want to be a Gap men's merchant. I wanted to move to another division or I wanted to move to kids or something. It just wasn't in the
Yeah.
cards. And that's really when I left and kind of did my entrepreneurial thing for a while and then ended up at Disney. But I would never have had any of the jobs I had if it wasn't for that time at Gap, for sure.
You mentioned we were talking about Gap denim and
Yeah.
Levi's. I'll tell
Mm,
you a story.
that's
Probably one of the
crazy.
things I was most excited about that I look back on and say, "Wow, that was something that I did that was
Mhm.
a true accomplishment." Was while I was working in the Gap denim area, I went to John Sable and I said, "John, we should stop carrying Levi's jeans." And
Mm.
he said, "Why?" I said, "Because look at the margin that we get during back to school where we
Yeah.
had a price match and we can't even get all the denim that we need."
I was gonna say they could
Eh,
never keep up.
So I showed him on a projection how much Gap business we would need to do to cover the gross margin dollars in lieu of having Levi's.
Mm.
So I convinced John, and then I went to Don and Mickey and said,
Mhm.
"Guys, we got to get rid of Levi's. We should not be carrying them. It's just
Mhm.
taking the brand down. People love Gap denim." And we they bought off on it. And that year during back to school, we did more gross margin dollars than
Mm.
we did prior year retail
Mm.
sales of Levi denim.
Mm.
So
No,
that was a moment. Then,
it's
which is
crazy.
apropos, and I think
Crazy.
we all saw the sad news of Adriano Goldschmidt
Adriano,
passing
I
away. I
know.
know.
Mm.
Well, I'll tell you a story about that. So while we were developing 1969, I was so excited about the product. I went to Mickey and Don again, riding a little bit of wave of success here. I said, I think that we should
Yeah.
wholesale 1969 jeans.
Mhm.
And I wanted to take them to Fred Siegel
Mm.
because I thought if we could have our 1969 exclusively in Fred Siegel,
And that
that would
Gene
be
Bar, the
with
famous
that
Gene Bar.
bar, it would be
Yeah,
such a buzz that
yeah.
I went. So I got Levi's out of the stores, but I didn't get 1969 into Fred Siegel. Well, batting 500.
Oh, it's good. No, I mean, my lord, the legacy. And I was so lucky to get hired in that time frame because to really learn what it was like to launch private label denim, right? I mean, the fit sessions and the washes and the fabrics and the cone mills and of it all. And I mean, like it was it was an incredible education because, and again, I don't know, it's so different the way everything's done today, but you know, you and I were talking before we started, a little bit earlier we even talked about this, but like when I got into denim after they kind of trained me and then they sent me out for like I was gone for like 6 weeks. I was in Georgia and South Carolina and Kentucky and then ultimately in El Paso where like I learned what sandblasted jeans were because they were literally sandblasted. Like it was a manual process and stonewash and tumbling and all of that kind of stuff and garment dye. Let's remember garment dye.
Of course, you
And,
remember. Do you? All right.
yeah.
Here's a quiz for
Well,
you. Do you remember the names of the owners of El Paso Garment?
I know it was AGF was the name of the company, and I should know. Okay, no, tell me.
Do you remember Moish and Tom
Moish, I
Almond?
was just gonna say Moish.
And
Moish is
Tom
one of
Almond.
them. Tom Almond. I knew Moish was one of them. I did know that. And I
and
and I
and
did know.
Dan Wagner was cutting the denim in Kentucky. Dan Wagner, Kentucky denim.
Uh-huh. And we had to learn. I remember he made me sit down and try to sew like the fell seams and stuff, like try to, and I mean, of course I got rejected. I couldn't do it. But I mean, the level of respect I had for that. And I mean, it's been funny because I think back to those days. I mean, funny, kind of ironic, funny, but when there was talk of like ramping up American production again and like American garment production and stuff. And I'm like, listen, I was there in the heyday of it. And I don't think we can just turn it on again because we turned it off. And I don't know where those people are that can sew anymore.
I know where they are. I have an answer.
Where are
They
they?
are on the other side of the border and they're not getting in. That's where they
Exactly.
are.
Totally. Because I know where we moved because you and I were also part of that when we had to start moving some of the production out of the United States.
807.
Honduras, Dominican Republic, all those places we were going. But where tailoring and seamstress and sewing was still an honored profession. And I remember it might have even been on a trip with you, Ken, where John taught me because I don't think people realize when you were a Gap merchant, you were talking about all the stuff we did as a Gap merchant in the 80s and the 90s. We also were like inspecting the factories and checking for compliance and child labor and stuff. And I remember John Sable taught me, he said, it's going to be high quality if you see men on the sewing line because it's a respected enough profession that a man will do that profession. Because a lot of countries you went to, it was all female, but there was other countries you went to where men were running the sewing and were running the cutting and all that kind of stuff. And I remember him saying to me, and it wasn't that he was being sexist or anything. He was
Right.
just making a comment that like if you see men, that means it's an honored profession and they're gonna put out quality garments. Because to your point, I think all the technical stuff that Gap taught us, it also taught us the soft skills of partnership management and relationship management and how to negotiate in a way where you could come out with a win-win situation. Um, all of those things we were taught. We were taught the technical of like, how do you buy? How do you do assortment? And then working for Mickey Drexler, who we've mentioned a couple of times, where you have to stand up and say, because I had knits and I have to say how many white pocket tees I sold in 34th and Broadway last week. Like that attention to detail, that
Right.
attention to detail and that data, that fact driven part of it. I mean, there was gut. Mickey was so much about gut, but it was also fact. And I've told this story so many times. Working at Gap was I would take stuff home at night and study because it was like doing homework because I felt like I wasn't keeping up, particularly when I was new in San Francisco. And I would literally take binders home and just study my business because I thought I cannot go into that meeting and not know, like I had to be ready for anything because that's the way he taught us. That's the way he raised expectations. That's the way he set goals. And it was scary at times, but I'm so grateful for it now. And I don't know where the youngins are getting that now. I don't know, where they are. I know some of the people that we worked with are now running retailers, and I'm sure they brought some of that with them. But it was a very unique time. It was a very unique time.
It's funny. I have a my daughter's friend, Mikey Burglass. You might know the last name Burglass.
Yes.
Mikey Burglass is working now at Gap, and he was an outlet, and he just went to full price. And
Amazing.
he's picked me to be his mentor, which could be a problem for him.
Ooh.
But it does keep me plugged into like what's happening there now, and it's funny to go back in our travel back in time and hear it from his mouth on what he's experiencing and what Gap is like today, because it's certainly different than it was when we were
Oh
there.
my gosh. Well, I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about tech and AI and retail and stuff. But since you kind of went there and we're not, but Gap, like I think about Gap today, and I listen. I know Richard Dixon. Like I know a lot of the people there. I mean, Richard was at Mattel when I was at Disney and DreamWorks, so there's again a lot of crossover. But and you and we've written about this on LinkedIn. I know we've talked about this and stuff. But I mean, what's your impression of Gap today? Like where they are today with everything they're doing? I mean, it's obviously not like when we were there, but I mean, they've had some ups and downs. So I'd be curious to hear what you think.
Well, it's interesting. I left in 2001, late 2001,
Mhm.
maybe early 2002. And I think the company at that point was doing close to 14 billion in
Billion.
sales.
Yeah.
And today I think they're doing a little over somewhere between 15 and 16 billion in
Mhm.
sales. So, basically no top line growth in 25 years. And
Mhm.
that includes adding a brand because they didn't have Athleta
Athleta,
back
no.
then. So the growth has been flat, and I think there have been many missteps between
Mhm.
2001 and today.
Yeah.
But when you look at where they are today, I do think they are making some great strides,
Mhm.
um, and I think they're becoming relevant and creating an emotional connection to the customer again.
Mhm.
Certainly with Gap brand, and I give Mark Breitbart a lot of credit
Yeah.
because I think that what they are doing around collaborations
Smart.
is is really resonating with a younger
Mhm.
customer and is driving traffic to the store and
Mhm.
make creating an emotional connection that had really not been there for years.
Mhm.
And it looks like they're on a good path, also putting the fun back into Old Navy, which was definitely there when the brand launched.
Mm.
But Banana's still kind of trying to find its way. I think
Yeah.
they're still looking for a leader. I don't believe there's a president in that
Yeah.
division yet. And Athleta is still a wounded duck. I don't think it's not in a good place yet. It needs to get back to where it was, but it's also operating in a very crowded space. But
I was gonna say it's such a crowded market.
overall, I think Gap has done a good job of regaining what it had lost and gaining momentum. And the marketing looks good. I mean, there's certainly a lot of what we see today comes out of the DNA of things that we were there
Mhm.
developing years ago, but they've been modernized, they've been made culturally relevant again. And
Mhm.
I think Richard's doing a good job putting some energy back into the company, focusing on product and doing some smart things around marketing and around
Content.
technology
Yeah, I
to
said
help the
technology
brand.
content. Yeah, no, no. No, I agree with you. I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's been interesting. It's I want them to win, I mean, I have so much love for that brand and, I'm so grateful for the foundation it gave me. I want them to win. I really do want them to win, but it's a tough road. What Okay, I'm gonna stay in this vein before I go over to technology. What brands or retail concepts, like what are you excited about just personally right now? I mean, who do you
If
think
I
is
if
interesting?
I if I were going to go out and shop today as
Yeah, yeah.
a shopper, I would be going over to Buck Mason. I
Yeah.
like to I like to cruise through Faraday. I
Yeah,
like what Todd Snyder is
I
doing.
know.
Um, those are some staples. Those are some go tos.
Mhm. Mhm.
If I step back and open up the lens a bit, super impressed with what Aritzia is doing. I mean, they are creating buzz and traffic and driving an incredible top line. There's a lot of growth there. Um,
Did you see they bought Fred Siegel, Melrose?
yeah, I did see that. I mean, that's
I mean, you mentioned Fred Siegel in the Jean
yeah,
Bar, like, where we went to, like, pray at the Jean Bar,
right.
in the '90s, and now yeah, they bought I was
That's just but
yeah,
they picked that up. I love as a brand. I love what On Cloud is doing as a brand. I think that
yeah.
they've created a movement and
Mhm.
they've created. Look, I think when you look at what happened to Allbirds, you know, having from a $4 billion valuation when they went
39,000,000.
public to $39 million cash out, what
39,000,000.
happened?
I
Well,
expected
it's
Ken
a
Pilot to buy them. I thought, "Oh, Ken Pilot could
you
bring that
know,
back." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't think
but no,
so.
I literally was
Uh,
I know, and I still have Allbirds in my closet. Like, I mean, it's not like I obviously didn't keep them open, but I had Allbirds. I mean, I liked the shoe. I
Everybody did. Everybody tried
yeah,
them. I think it
yeah.
was a look. It was a really strong moment. The brand was resonating, and
Mhm,
they were opening stores. They were running at 100 miles an
mhm,
hour. But if I think about other brands that I like today that are doing well,
mhm.
let's see. Where else do I shop and buy? You know, I went the other day. I popped into Alex Mill and I bought a great nylon jacket that
Yeah,
if it had had on a Stone Island patch, I would have believed it, but it
uh-huh.
didn't have a Stone Island price tag. It was just a great windbreaker, and I loved it there. So I picked that up. I hit that on my shopping trip. I think there are a lot of exciting brands out there.
It's funny you say that because you mentioned Buck Mason. I mean, another one, I always say it wrong, but Weiss made, WIES made. I bought from them. It is interesting to me because when we were at Gap, we were taught that specialty retail had special in it. That was like a Mickey Drexler saying. You have to remember
Right.
specialty retail is special. We're not for everybody. And I am excited about, especially even on the just in the men's space, the amount of like smaller brands that are trying, right? That have a story and have quality at their core and, are using better fabrics and better finishes and better fits and all of that. Like the kind of the product stuff that we were taught. Um, at this point in my life, I don't need anything. So it has to be a want. Like it has to be something that I'm like, okay, that is so cool. I want to wear that, or it's replacing something that's worn out. Um, I was laughing. Ken and I were laughing before we got on because I was like thinking about what to wear on this one. And another Drexlerism was, men dress cradle to grave the same way. Remember, he would say that, right?
Uniform. It's the
The
uniform.
uniform, right? And I thought, oh my God, I probably wore this outfit that I have on to the office in 1993 in San Francisco, like a striped tee and a denim shirt. I probably, yeah, 30 years ago I was in the same one. But I do, and it's funny. I think I told you when we were together, moving to Atlanta after all that time on the West Coast, Atlanta still has like mom and pop shopping areas with like interesting curated, assorted specialty stores, right? Whether it's kids or, women's or home. There's some really interesting brands and that are, I don't think want to be anything more than they are. Like they're one or two stores. That's what they want to be. And they have a loyal following and yeah, they're online too because they have to be online. But that's it. They're not trying to be 100 stores or 500 stores or, 1,000 stores. They're not trying because you and I both been in those growth things where it was like growth, 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 store count, store count, store count, per door average, per door average.
Right.
And um, I mean, that was what was so hard at Claire's was we had too many stores. I mean, we couldn't keep up. Like, and the amount of inventory and maintenance and capital it took to have a chain that big um, was just choking us. Just
You know,
choking.
it's really hard to grow, and create scarcity at the same
Yeah.
time. And there's
Yeah,
nothing
like ubiquity and
better.
scarcity don't go together. They just
I know. And at the end of the day, there's nothing better than creating scarcity.
mhm.
to keep the customer coming back.
For
Because
sure.
if there isn't scarcity, it's an overbuy. And if there's an overbuy, it's a markdown. And then you train the
Mhm.
customer to wait. And it's a fine balance between a bestseller and a markdown. One more item, and you go from a fast turn to a slow turn.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, encouraging full that scarcity of like encouraging full price sales, like somebody actually buy full ticket and not wait for the friends and family event or not wait for the weekend markdown or anything like that, not wait for the coupon. Um, I mean, that's in retail, that's when you hit glory. Okay, so let's shift gears to the Ken Pilot Ventures life, this tech thing. Um, well, we'll mention A-Frame again because I'm so thrilled we're both working on A-Frame and with Ari Bloom because I do love what he's doing. But of all the things you're dabbling in and advising and investing, the stuff you're allowed to talk about, like what are you excited about? And what do you think about tech and retail? I'm not even saying AI, I'm just saying tech.
Yeah. I think, listen, as far as tech goes, whether it's AI based or not, you've got to use tech as a way to help solve problems in the company, not
Mhm,
necessarily bring it in and see where it fits. So this is
mhm,
like which areas of the company aren't working well, and are there tech solutions that can help us improve? So kind of building it from the inside out instead of finding solutions from the outside and dragging them in. The
mhm,
biggest challenge with technology is change management. It's adoption.
mhm,
All these platforms look great and they're easy to sell into. But if the
mhm,
people in the company aren't adopting the platforms, you're going to get churn on the platform and they don't get used. You waste money and companies will generally
yeah,
opt out.
yeah,
So I try to look at platforms that are relatively easy to integrate, light integration. That's important. Number two, I can totally wrap my head around it, and I would want to use it if I were running a company. Um, Number three, I think the business model, what they charge for the platform, feels reasonable relative to what the output is or the ROI on the platform can be. And then number
mhm,
four, I've got to really like the founder. Maybe that's number one, and understand their vision, how they work with their people, what they've done in the past, if they've had another platform, a
mhm,
successful exit. The founder relationship is one that's very important to me as well.
mhm.
That being said, I've been fortunate enough to have had a few exits along the way, the good kind, not like the one I had with Robot Galaxy, which there was an exit, but that was me walking out without a whole lot of
I
money
was gonna say
left.
that was a forced
Yeah,
exit,
that
yes.
was a bummer. But I've had a few exits, and I'm working with some companies today that are doing some exciting things. One platform I love, which is actually working with both Gap and American Eagle, which is Radar. They
Mm,
are a ceiling mount RFID, radio frequency identification. And I don't know if you remember
mm,
this, Jim, but back in 1999, with the help of Chuck Krovitz, we were trying to figure out how to implement RFID at Gap.
mhm.
So
Yeah, for
RFID
sure.
has been around forever, but it was always cost prohibitive. And now it's not really that cost prohibitive.
Mhm,
So what Radar does is it's a ceiling mount RFID reader that can continually read your product. So you no longer need to hand scan or wands. You don't have to wand your product to figure out how much inventory you has. The readers are constantly, continually reading your product, providing you that information.
mm.
So I love that because to me, I don't know
Yeah,
what
that's
is
great.
more important than to have exacting inventory
Yeah,
in your stores versus if you don't have RFID, typically your inventory data is about 25 to 30% inaccurate at any point in
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So you think about where we are with technology and where if a customer buys online and a company wants to ship it from a store, how can they ship it from a store if they
I
don't
know.
know what the store actually has?
Yeah,
So they build these algorithms that say if it's 2 units or less, look at it as though it were out of stock. Well,
yeah,
think about what that does to your inventory levels. You have to pop them up to make sure you can satisfy these sales. So, inventory accuracy, knowing what you own, critically
mm.
important. I love what Radar is doing. And on
That's
the
great
A,
one.
the AI side, there are a couple of winners, but one I love is called Curated for You, and
Mm,
it's like having an online merchant on steroids.
mm,
The two founders who are based down in Austin, Texas. Katie and Mary, they're awesome. And basically what it does is they create these event and occasion pills. It's like a
Mm,
navigation. It's at the top of your screen. It could say Western wear, evening chic,
mm,
summer dance. You click on the bubble or the pill, and it shows you outfit one line after the other, multiple outfits that
mm.
support that event or occasion instantly. And they're working with Gap, with Urban Outfitters. I mean, they're doing they just signed Target. So I love that. That's all AI based. Um,
And then you can click and buy.
Oh
So they
yeah. Oh, it's right on your site. I mean, if you
oh my
take a
God.
look at Revolve, they're live on it. And Revolve, for those that are out there that know how hard tech is and getting tech into companies,
Yeah.
Revolve is really a company that is tech first. They
Mhm.
will typically build a lot of the technology that they need. So to be adopted by a Revolve says a lot.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
really good.
so that one's exciting. And then there are a bunch of
What
others. They
was
have
the background of those founders? Were they retailers?
One was in the finance space.
So
Yeah, they're both young women, very talented. Um,
amazing.
I had just had a company that was bought by Salesforce called Simulate, and they
Mm.
provide large language model search bar. So the search bar on your site can handle you looking for a very cool linen pant that I can wear to a summer wedding on the beach, and it's going to put not and why don't you include the outfit along with that.
That's
so
amazing. So like
so
conversational search. That's
that's
unbelievable.
right. We're doing that offsite now with Perplexity and OpenAI,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and we're going to want to search that way on any site that we're on, because that's how we're being trained to search now. And if
Mhm.
your search results come back and say no item found, you go, I know you have a linen pant, or I know you have a beach look.
Totally.
Why aren't you pulling that together for me? So,
I love that.
yeah, that
It's so funny you say that too, because now that I'm a solopreneur or whatever I'm called, right? And listen, I was corporate for a long time and I was used to having teams, right? I was used to having people who helped do everything. And now I'm doing it all myself. And I have a couple well-placed freelancers, but I literally talk to some of these tools like I'm talking to a human being, like my calendar tool. And, like I literally have conversations with it. Um, because I I think of them as like an indispensable member of my team now, right? Like where would I be without my calendar tool, and and when I mess up the calendar, it's never the tool, it's me, it's like, but I mean, I'm learning. You mentioned it earlier. I think it's one of the things I've always liked about you is you're a lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm so curious, and I'll play. I mean, if people tell me, oh, you should try this or you should try that, like Canva, like when people first started talking about Canva, I was like, oh, I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not good at it. And I'm still not great at it. But you know what? I can pass now. I can do some good deck and I can, make some interesting graphics. And so much of that was just getting in and playing with it and just forcing myself to kind of get in the playground and try and learn the tool.
Well, it's funny. There's another platform that I invested in about 2 years ago called Raspberry AI,
Mm,
and it's a platform for designers. It can take a
mm.
designer sketch, upload it into a photoreal image, and then allow the designer with a Chat GPT like prompt to continually iterate until it's right. And the challenge is a lot of designers on the very creative side are worried about AI. But
Mhm.
realistically, it's not replacing anybody. It
Mm-mm.
simply replaces their bike with a car. So it allows you to get there faster. That's all.
Yeah, I
But
love that. That's
it
a
still
great way.
has to be right in the designer's mind's eye in order to say, yes, I'm ready to share it with the team. And then what's cool about the platform is you could take the finished product and you can show it on an AI model and an AI location and even make it a video. So imagine this. Imagine if the designer starts off in the morning thinking about an item, they sketch it, they
Yeah.
upload it, photo reel it, they finalize it. In maybe 2 hours, you're showing it on TikTok or Reels and getting customer reaction to product that was just an idea a few hours ago and deciding, wow, look at that reaction. Should we go into production? Yes, we never get 500 likes on something. So
Yeah.
there's ways to really use
Yeah.
technology, obviously, to accelerate what you do and get feedback faster and move more quickly. But
I think I love that. I love that when you said that bike and car, I love that. That's going to stick with me. And I keep saying the same thing is it's not a replacement, but it's improving effectiveness and efficiency. I really do. I think, and in my case, it's taking away some of the more mundane tasks that I don't want to do repetitively, which allows me more time to write or more time to do podcast or more time to create content. Um, and at the end of the day, the humans, nothing gets published on any of my platforms unless I'm happy with it, right? I
right.
haven't like turned my life over to the AI world and just said post, post, post. Like it's my writing, but research, absolutely. Check my grammar, absolutely. Like all of those things that in the not so distant past would have taken days. And to your point, it's minutes, it's moments now. It's quite fascinating. Yeah, I and so many of the people I coach, I'm like, I don't want you to be afraid of it. I want you to spend time with it so that you know how to use it as a tool, as an asset, not as a threat, because there's a lot of people, particularly my generation. I mean, there's a lot of people that are afraid of some of this stuff
Yeah.
and afraid of being replaced and afraid of being outdated and afraid of being, post peak. And I'm like, okay, well, don't let it. Like, is the bottom line. Just don't let it.
You mentioned earlier Mindy Grossman, and
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Mindy, or maybe I heard her on a podcast, could have been
Mhm.
yours, but she talked about AI, and her perspective on it I thought was very interesting.
Mm,
She feels that organizations should look internally for success stories around AI,
mm,
who's using it, and celebrate those, and
mm,
let those who are using it share it with others. So again,
mhm,
building success around AI
mhm.
from the inside out. See who's using it, how are you using it, share it with others, because it shows that someone's able to do what
Yeah.
they need to do more quickly, more thoroughly, and better, and helps people understand how to get it done. And it comes from a place that's a little bit less threatening than telling, okay, employees, you're going to now use Claude. Everyone's using
Yes,
Claude
everyone
starting
here, it's like,
tomorrow.
we've downloaded it on your computer.
That's
No,
right.
I mean, that's a great insight because she's another lifelong learner. I mean, Mindy and I talk about that all the time. She's curious. She's a
Yep.
lifelong learner. She's ridden trends. She's created trends and she's not, I mean, when I went to work for Osmus TV and DreamWorks, one of my favorite phrases from the founders of Osmus TV, which was ahead of its time in the multi-channel network space and everything else. I mean, talking 2015, um, was disrupt or be disrupted. Like that was their, and they had it painted on the wall and they had t-shirts made and everything else. And that was just such a great mantra for those of us that were like working in the YouTube space. Cause again, this is, 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
YouTube was way different than it is today. But that's absolutely the way that I felt because that was the job I went to after I had done Claire's as the CEO, and we were being disrupted by YouTube. We were being disrupted by the way kids were consuming content. And I thought, if I'm going to continue to be disrupted, I have to go learn from the disruptor, like how they're doing it. Because
Right.
I can sit here and wring my hands and be like, oh my God, I'm being disrupted and nobody's going to the mall anymore. And teenage girls aren't shopping all weekend. They're online with their friends. Or I can go kind of into the tiger's den and actually learn from the people that are doing it. Um, and I think that you've got that same energy. Like it's like disrupt or be disrupted. Like, because someone's going to figure it out. Like if it's not you, someone's going to figure it out. Oh, amazing. Okay, I could talk to you for hours, but we're coming towards our end. We are coming towards our end. So many pearls of wisdom in this. But the last question I always ask our guests is what is one question I should have asked you today that I didn't ask you or that you wanted to talk about?
What gets me out of bed in the morning?
Oh, okay. Ken, what gets you out of bed in the morning? I love that question.
Funny you should ask, Jim. A few things. Number one, I love playing padel or paddle.
Mm,
And for those of you who don't know the sport yet, it is the fastest growing sport globally,
it is.
and it is chess, whereas pickleball is checkers. So that's all I'm going to say. It's a great sport. I love that. So from a sport perspective, that gets me out of bed. From a professional perspective, I love having meetings on my calendar that are either around mentoring or working with some of the
Mm,
folks who I've invested in and or advise, and or just meeting with new platforms to learn
mm,
something new. So
mm,
I love having
mm.
days that are like that, where I'm learning something new,
Yeah.
trying to help people problem solve, or just be a mentor to someone. And I I really look a lot at giving back now, or giving back with my
Mm.
time. I try to take as many meetings, and I'm opening myself up, but I try to
Just
take
say,
I'm
be
trying to
careful.
take as many meetings as realistically possible. One thing that I'm not doing, I do invest in early stage retail
Mhm,
technology, but that's technology that is that is revenue generating. It's not pre-revenue, and that's an important distinction. And the reason
mm.
and the reason for that is I don't have the time or bandwidth
Time frame.
to jump in on something that's pre-revenue, even though I may love it. Um,
Yeah.
but so I'm usually waiting for a platform that's revenue generating, that's maybe raised at least a seed round, and or offers an opportunity to get into a seed round. But that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
That's wisdom right there. That is wisdom. I mean, and yeah, I admire you so much for that. And the fact that you do give back so graciously of your time. Okay, so you kind of just opened yourself up. But if people want to find Ken Pilot, where do they find him? It'll be in the show notes. But
Yeah,
where
the
where do
bet
you
that
want them to find you?
yeah, you can hit me on LinkedIn. I will
It is him,
never
by the way. It is him. I've seen
I,
that.
I will generally not accept someone's link request
Hmm.
without a reason to accept it. So
Hmm.
for all of you out there, just a best practice is, if you reach out to someone, tell them why you want to connect with them. Don't
Yes.
just offer yourself to be connected,
Yeah.
because I value the relationships I have on LinkedIn. It's a business vehicle for
100%.
me, and I want to know all the first connections I have. So if someone asks me if I can connect them with that person, I say, "Sure, I
Mm,
know Jim. I'm happy to connect you."
yes,
Versus, "Oh,
see,
where did I meet Jim? Must have been at a conference. Don't remember how. Sorry, I
totally.
don't know him." So LinkedIn's a good place to start.
I love that. No, and that's wonderful mentoring advice you just gave because I do something very similar. Like I say to people, because there's also, to your point, the difference between followers and connections, right? And I say to people, my connections, I'm authentically connected to. I want the exact same thing. I want to be able to say how I met them, when I worked with them, or if somebody introduced me to them. I absolutely feel the same way. Well, thank you, Mr. Pilot. This has been
Oh,
unbelievable. I'll also put in the show notes. He has an incredible podcast you should follow on his own
oh, I
too.
forgot about that. I
The
hadn't even
Retail
plugged my
Pilot.
podcast,
This
The
is the
Retail
best
Pilot.
name, The Retail Pilot. It's the best name for a podcast. He's had
Really took a
incredible
lot of
guests.
thought, a lot of
It was
thought.
a
And what should I
lot.
name
I
it?
mean, you were blessed with that brand name. Yes.
I
Um,
do have a dog named Crash.
I know. I love that story. People,
Crash Pilot.
Crash Pilot.
it
Crash,
was it was
he did
really
not do
funny
that
and
to his
cute.
children. Thank God. Only the dog.
Well, my mother's dog I named Jet, so she had Jet Pilot, Crash Pilot. Um, Now the only
But
problem
when
with
you have that
Crash
name, it
is,
is a brand name. I mean, that
I
last
know.
name is a brand name. It
What do
is.
you so a sad story. So my dog's 11. Crash was always
Oh,
fun, but a fun name. But he went
oh.
blind a couple of years ago. Yeah. So imagine
Does
when a
he bump
dog.
off walls?
What's
Oh,
that?
he bumps off walls, right?
Yeah, I could have called
'Cause
him
that's
Bump.
how he feels his
I
way.
know.
Oh.
I take him, walk him gingerly, making sure I'm careful. Then dogs, when they come up for that, they sneak around for that
Oh.
little sniff. And then I got to tell people, I said, oh, my dog, he's blind,
Oh.
he's a little, and they go, oh, really? Oh, but he's so cute. What's his name? And I say, well, it's Crash. And they go, you asshole, who calls a blind dog Crash? And I, no, like
He was
Larry,
named before he
like
was
Larry David. No way. You don't understand. No, it wasn't like that.
Oh,
No, come
God.
back. It's
Is
because
he physically everything else is fine? He just went blind.
yeah, it's called SARS, sudden acute retinal detachment syndrome. It was like in a day. I was traveling. He jumped off the bed and walked into the wall. I got a call from my wife who was hysterical.
Oh my God.
The dog is blind.
Unbelievable. Okay, he's
Yeah.
lucky to have you as an owner.
Yeah.
I've never even heard that before.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
like looking at my 2 dogs. I'm like, okay.
I'll
we
tell
don't
you
have
this. He knows how to find his bowl because that dog does not miss a meal.
Well, this is the thing. His other senses got stronger. I know
They're
that.
much stronger.
Yeah.
It's a
And
super. His nose is a superpower.
Yeah, I have a friend that has a blind dog, and he has to explain when you go over to his house, because literally you would be at his house like at a cocktail party or dinner party, and you would just hear this like, because the dog was like making its way around totally. And I was like, what is going on? He's like, oh, that's my little blind dog. And his was like his little chihuahua. But I was like, is he hurting himself? No. That's just how he gets around.
Yeah.
But he had a very strong sense of smell, and he was like a lover, and it was crazy. Again, thank you, Ken. I'll make sure everybody knows how to get
a pleasure.
you.
All right, Jim. Great to see you.
Always learn with you. You've been teaching me for over 30 years. So thank you.
You're very patient.
Thanks. Thanks for spending this time with us on Ask for an Answer. If this conversation sparks something for you, don't just nod and move on. Take one idea, one question, one uncomfortable and bring it into your next meeting, your next one-on-one, or your next big decision. That's how this becomes a practice, not just a podcast. If you're leading a team, a classroom, a company, or just your own next chapter, you don't have to have it all figured out. You do have to be willing to listen, to ask better questions, and to create the kind of safety where people will actually tell you what they see. If this episode was useful, share it with someone who's in the arena with you. And if you want more tools, stories, and real talk leadership moments, make sure you follow the show and leave a review so others can find us. I'm Jim Fielding. Thank you for being here, for leading with less armor and more intention. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep asking for an answer.